Hello ladies and gentlemen, and aloha! Welcome to Snapmares Media. As you know, we are here just before the doors open for Deathmatch Down Under, smashing sandcastles. And my guest at this time is a man who, when I last spoke to him, I got to call him a mate Robbie, but now I have to call him Sir. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the sniper of the skies, Robbie Eagles, Mr. Eagles, Sir. Thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great because you've called me Sir, so now I don't have to charge you a premium price for this interview.
Well, you are wearing a Super J-Cup shirt to basically flex and remind me of your standing in life now. So
I was in that.
I know you were in that. You're in many things, in fact, but we can obviously talk about it. But I think the one burning question I've had for you, because the last time we had an interview was a few years ago now, there's one question that I've been burning to ask you. How does it feel when you go to Google and search Robbie Eagles, you come up and not WCW's Maestro?
Oh, I knew this was going to come up with you.
Yeah, of course it was.
The puns that you have put behind commentary sometimes have not been the most flattering.
The Maestro of the Wind is the new Inter-Commonwealth champion. Come on.
Yeah,
That was pretty sweet.
not fond of that, but I understood where the joke, and when I heard it back, I had a bit of a chuckle. It's
And then
great.
you thought, I'm going to get him. I'm
Yeah.
going to crush his dreams now.
Correct. And I mean, all power to Robbie Eagle, the Maestro.
Yes.
Which I do understand I get confused for, but we don't look alike, so I'm glad that people can differentiate that now. And it
Fairly
is,
different age as well.
yeah, I mean, very different periods of wrestling that we existed in.
Different styles. I don't remember him doing a 450 very well.
Probably just not on tape. Exactly
Absolutely.
right.
He could probably do it and just said, hey, it doesn't quite go with your gimmick, maybe don't do that on TV.
Magicians don't show all their tricks, right? They save some for the very finale.
Absolutely. But in all seriousness, the last time we've talked, so much has happened. I think the last interview we did, it was when I was a part of One Fall, and I think at the time I was interviewing you about a MCW Inter-Commonwealth Championship against Adam Brooks, and you cut a hell of a promo that night, I might add. But one thing I think was fascinating looking back on that interview is that started something, the ball rolling, in that you obviously then entered this icy feud with Adam Brooks, and then a certain Will Ospreay sort of got into the mix a little bit. And surely that sort of three-way match that you had, and obviously your battles with the PWA Championship with Ospreay as well, certainly that opened the doors to New Japan for you. At least that's what the rumours are. Is that the case? How did you jump to New Japan?
Yeah, it was a bit of a longer process. It was something that I had always aspired to do. I had seen the initial Best of Super Juniors and Super J Cups from the early mid-90s. And I always looked at those like, that's the premier wrestling that I want to do. I want to be the Jushin Thunder Ligers. I want to be El Samurai. I want to be Super Delphin in these tournaments, right?
Yeah.
And Hayabusa, such a stalwart and person that really made the style that a lot of us wrestle today, like Adam Brooks, like myself, like Will Ospreay. He's such an influence, right? Rest in peace to him. But watching those back, I always went, that's where I want to get to. And although it might sound cliche to say that because that's where I am now, it truly was a goal. So I just, once Will and I kind of got connected online because of our backyard past, and he was like, hey, you're that guy. And I was like, hey, you're that guy. And
Oh my God,
it was like,
that's amazing.
it's just like, hey, we're both cool. Let's be online friends. And then, the word about him coming to town happened. And I was like, okay, cool. That's a really big, important thing. I don't want to miss out on that. And then he came to Sydney, and then the match came my way, and I was very, fortunate to be in that position. And then the match at Arrow and Swanston, where we're recording this
Actually,
from.
incidentally, this is the very building where you had that three-way with him and Adam Brooks.
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing.
And that kind of, I feel like that made me and Adam locally, that match. Like, we had our singles matches with Will separately in our home promotions. And then when we all came together here for this big spectacle event, and everyone flew in from different states to watch it, it really set the tone for me and Adam going forward. Then from there, I just committed. Anytime New Japan was holding a tryout in Australia, I went. Anytime they were running a seminar, I went. There was a point where it was like 6 Melbourne students or active wrestlers and me and Caveman Ugg at a seminar with Naito. And I was like, how lucky am I to be one of 8 in this situation?
Yeah.
But that still didn't seal the deal. I had to go to New Zealand for less than 24 hours, do a seminar at the Farley Dojo because Jado was going to be there. And I was like, all right, cool. Here's one of the guys that's in charge. Here's one of the guys that's been there the longest. So I want to show my face to him again because he'd already been here once before. Flew for less than 24 hours, paid a whole bunch of money to do the seminar, did as best as I could, did all the squats painfully, and then came away from that going, okay, I've really done everything I could. I've done XYZ seminar. I've done shows with Will Ospreay. I've been in locker rooms with Bad Luck Fale. What else do I need to do? And it was just a waiting game. I impressed in all those situations, and then it just took Fale to say, hey, now's the time. Then the Bullet Club stuff happened, and Will was pushing for chaos. So then when it's like a bidding war, I think that's what made it more enticing for everyone, because it was two factions trying to get Robbie Eagles in, and it was more about who was going to go first, not that it wasn't going to happen.
So that's fascinating. So from what you've described, it sounds like the one thing that helped set you apart from the pack, I suppose, is that you were, as well as obviously excelling in the ring, you were willing to go that extra distance, that you were willing to go to all of those seminars. So do you think it is a case that for many wrestlers, the one thing that's holding them back is that they see these opportunities and it's just, it's a bit too much money, or it's a bit too much travel, or do you think that that's what really helped push you over the edge to really get noticed and be in this bidding war, as you put it?
Yeah, I think so. I think committing to all those training sessions and seminars and tryouts and whatever else it was, and not only putting in my best effort at those, but then also doing the best in the position I was put on each card that I was surrounding those opportunities, I was just trying to make sure that I was a standout performer in all aspects, from the training to the actual matches. Definitely my history that I've had locally in Australia and being, well received with the locker room helps, but it wouldn't have mattered if I, floundered in the matches with Will Ospreay. It wouldn't have mattered if I couldn't do all the push-ups in the seminars with Bad Luck Fale and Okada watching. So I had to make sure that I could perform just as equally. So I think that's definitely what could be a detriment to a young wrestler that's trying to break that barrier or get to that next level of their career, is they're looking at these opportunities and going, next time. Or, I don't really get along with that locker room because I'm not super comfortable with them, so I won't go to that one because I'll be the odd one out. Like, sometimes being the odd one out is actually the most beneficial thing you can do because you stand out from day dot. So I think that's definitely my piece of advice that I give to everyone, is commit to wherever you want to go. I saw the New Japan door open a crack, and I pushed my foot and wedged it there and kept it there until they pulled me all the way through the other side.
Sometimes a wrestler's worst enemy can be their own defeatist attitude, I suppose.
Yeah. Agreed.
Fantastic. So obviously you've gone to New Japan and you've had some great moments. I've listed some of your bucket list items here. Obviously, best of the Super Juniors, Super Junior Tag League, where in your first match you tapped out Jushin Thunder Liger and broke the internet. And then, but the one that I really want to ask you about, because this must have been amazing, and I was in the crowd to watch this. NJPW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Southern Showdown 2019, in the spiritual home of Australian wrestling, no less, the Festival Hall. You took on Will Ospreay for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, and that building was filled with people praying that you were going to prize that title off of his waist. That must have been one of the most nerve-wracking matches of your career.
Absolutely. That weekend was quite... Oh, man. Thinking about it now gives me PTSD. And if you want an exclusive, Andy, I'll give you an exclusive that I haven't told anyone else.
I love exclusives.
Besides close friends and family that knew what happened. A week before, I was wrestling here in Melbourne for the World Series Wrestling Tour.
Oh, yep.
And I was defending my WSW Championship against Marty Skrull in an unannounced match on the second day in Melbourne. Actually tore my MCL that night.
Oh,
and I got pulled from the show in Sydney the next day because I couldn't walk. 1 week before this IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship match. And we had just filmed the documentary that did all the lead up. So the training session that's at the end of that documentary that's still online now, leading my lead up to that title fight with Will, it shows me training really hard and being in real good shape. Then I fly to Melbourne and have a great match with Joey Janela. Then I wrestle Marty. We have a great match, and right at the end, I heard and felt something pop in my knee.
Oh, God.
So it was come back to Sydney, try to get on the show, strap myself up. Nah, can't do it. Get out of that. Buy the most expensive knee brace I could. Saw the physio basically every day I could.
Yep.
Came back to Melbourne, saw a physio when I got here, and kind of looked at myself and I was like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
So that was my mentality going into that match. Having everyone be behind me, like I could feel it. It wasn't just figuratively. It was literally. It was physically. People were literally like picking me up every time I was down to be like, keep going, Robbie, keep going. And up until recently, Andy, we had the longest IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match in history.
Wow, I actually did not know that.
34 and something minutes, only to be topped by Hiromu Takahashi and Show just recently for New Japan Pro
What a
Wrestling.
pair of... But anyway, let's not say that.
By like 30 seconds, so it doesn't really count. But I still hang my hat on that match, and I'm so proud of everything that I did in that match. And I was within a whisker of winning that championship, but it just wasn't to be.
Well, I have to say I think it's the first time I've actually got to speak to you since that match. Congratulations. I loved watching that match live. It was absolutely fantastic. Just the atmosphere in the building, and obviously, I suppose for all the Australians in attendance, we were disappointed, but at the end of the day, we still applauded the match because at the end of the day, it was you versus Will, and it was a phenomenal contest, and it really put the cherry on the cake of, at the time, it was the Bullet Club versus Chaos, and it just added that extra chapter to it. So, really, really fascinating to hear that you were. Would you say you were injured going into? I suppose you were injured going into that match then.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh man, that really must have added to the stress.
But I don't like to talk about it because I don't want people to go, oh, Robbie only lost because he was on one leg.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want that to be an excuse, and I don't think that's an excuse. If I was able to get my gear on and make that entrance and make that walk, then in my eyes I was ready to fight. So I don't look at it like I was injured and that's what cost me. I look at it like, hey, I'm just every other wrestler. I'm dealing with an injury. Mine was a bit more severe than most others, but I still pressed on, and I still did pretty good considering.
And you've never used it as an excuse. At the end
Never.
of the day, the better man won on that night.
Exactly.
But look, what are your goals moving forward? I mean, you're certainly, I know you well enough to know you're certainly not going to rest on your laurels. You obviously are part of New Japan now. You're obviously in Australia. You're getting to wrestle for, pretty much all the top promotions across the country and everything. What are your goals now? And I don't necessarily mean just winning major championships, but I've recently been watching you, and you've been in matches with people like M the Kid, Jet Ruka, recently AJ at PWA's trainee shows. Seems to me that you're taking a lot of responsibility on board to help the next generation as well come into the sport. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. I just like beating the piss out of people, to be honest. I'm at that stage of my career where, I'm 31 now. I've been wrestling since I was 18, so I'm a seasoned vet. I've been around a little bit. And I've done some things in this country. So for people that come in and start new, it's a little bit like, hey, I want to help you out, but I also get my rocks off kicking you in the face a little bit. So that's like a bonus for me.
Yeah.
I do that because win or lose, and most of the time, let's be honest, we know that the more inexperienced wrestler is the underdog, right? That's generally how it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
So someone's really got to show that fire and bring something different to the ring to topple me right now because I'm so focused and determined. But even in that loss, these younger wrestlers take something from that and they go, okay, I took it to Robbie for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, for 20 minutes, however long the match goes if they survive that long. And they can hang their hat on that and they can say, hey, this is one of my proudest moments. I stood in there and lasted that long. And that gives them a bit more drive here, makes them press forward with their career, and it also gives them one of their toughest fights pretty early into their career. So when you have that happen, when you really get knocked about, and if you keep going and you turn up to training the next day or you go to your next booking the next week and you're like, yeah, I want it just as much as I wanted that one, then I know you're going to be in it for the long haul. My big goal, Andy, and I've spoken about it for years and years, and it hasn't changed because I'm in New Japan Pro Wrestling, it's just grown stronger and bigger. Yep. I want Australian wrestling to be the biggest scene in all of wrestling in the world. And I don't mean taking over your high up multi-million-dollar companies, because I know it's a long way away from getting there. But I just want us to be the most talked about thing and to be realistic in this post-pandemic era. We are the only country that has so much wrestling in front of a live audience, streamed, put onto services, put available to the world with some top-tier talent. So I think we're already on the way. I can almost start taking a back seat. But I'm going to put myself in there to say, hey, make sure you're all looking at me. Yeah. Any international attention I have, come look at what we're doing over here. So that's pretty much my big goal.
Fantastic. Now, just to finish off, we are here at Deathmatch Down Under, smashing sandcastles, and you're going to be taking on Zilla Davis. Very interesting contest, because obviously the last match he had in Australia before he left over to the UK was against you.
Yeah.
And he defeated you. So I imagine that you're very driven tonight to hand in his arse, I suppose is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we wrestled for AWA Grindhouse in his hometown of Brisbane. It was like May the 4th or 5th because it was Star Wars themed at the time, and that would have been 2017, I think, when he left. There's no footage to prove that he beat me.
Okay.
Right? So, because for whatever reason, one of the hottest matches that ever happened in Queensland didn't get filmed correctly.
It's on cagematch.net, so,
But of course that would
that's
happen, right?
gospel
That's the dark ages of Australian wrestling. A show happens, but did it happen because no one heard it?
The tree fell over in the woods.
Exactly.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, I'm pretty determined going into tonight, Andy. That's a loss that I haven't stopped thinking about. And then especially when Davis started getting all this international recognition in the UK, and then when him and Kyle became Aussie Open and started just winning championships, and they were doing the Ultimo Dragon photo where they had 7 belts on each arm or whatever it was.
I was doing my commentary research notes. Together they have won 10 separate tag team championships across Europe.
Insane.
Yeah,
insane,
absolutely
right?
insane.
But of course, part of me was jealous because he was going to do that, and I was still doing as good as I thought I was, or better than I thought I was, or better than I thought I was than Davis. But he's the one that's getting all the attention because he's off in England. I'm like, well, that's not fair. Just because of where I am geographically doesn't mean that I'm not the better wrestler. So there is a score to settle. Unfortunately, we're really good friends.
It does make it harder punching him in the face.
Yeah, and I don't punch often. I like to kick. So I'm happier kicking, and I'll probably feel less resentment against myself doing that.
Well, because it's your hands free to stroke his hair, just as you.
Yeah, I can pat him and tell him it's okay while I'm kicking him in the teeth. But yeah, being good friends almost makes it that we go a little bit harder because now we're more determined to beat the other person. Because it's not so much about, yes, I won and I'm moving up the rankings. It's now almost like bragging rights and being like, haha, you lost, I beat you. Because, it's not a secret when you're friends. You don't rub that stuff in front of the other's face. And it stings. You got an open wound, you put salt into it. So I'm going to look to tear him open and pour a whole drum of salt into him tonight because I've sat here for 4 years since he beat me, and I've just had to hold on to that and do nothing about it. So tonight I get to rectify.
Plus you can remind him he doesn't have a Super J Cup shirt, and you do.
No.
Absolutely.
He's wrestled for New Japan, but it was once in England, so I don't reckon it counts. Sorry, Davis.
No, I think that's fair. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Robbie Eagles. Robbie, thank you very much for joining us. It's been fantastic catching up with you. Good luck against Davis tonight. I'm sure you're going to win.
Oh yeah, I can't wait, Davis.